Snapchat is one of the most popular social media platforms, and now law enforcement and parents are concerned it's also become popular with drug dealers. There were over 49,000 opioid deaths between January 2016 and June 2024. That's according to the Canadian government. And while those numbers are not directly linked to drugs available via social media, in the U.S., a lawsuit has been filed by family members of more than 60 kids who allegedly overdosed on drugs that were purchased on Snapchat. This lawsuit alleges the app makes kids a target for drug dealers. For what you need to know this morning, we're joined by Brett Caraway. He is a professor of media and economics at the University of Toronto. Good to talk to you again.
Happy to be here.
So what makes Snapchat such an easy avenue or an easier avenue for drug dealers to access young people?
So it's slightly different than something like Facebook or Instagram in the sense that it was built from the beginning as a way to sort of share photos that would disappear. So the idea behind Snapchat is that you can add friends and then all of a sudden have some direct messaging going on, but then the messages just sort of disappear into the ether. So a drug dealer likes that because it doesn't leave some sort of archive of communication between them and the person they're selling drugs to.
This is part of the problem why it's difficult to police, but makes it easier for drug dealers. Social media platforms, we know, have safeguards in place for illegal activity, and they include keywords that sort of trigger against an inappropriate response or against a code that they have in place. But there are examples of the workarounds on this, and I wanted to show some to some people. These are from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency. This is how young people and drug dealers are using emojis to get around the keywords. So, just to walk you through this, a cookie emoji means large batch. A crystal ball is meth. A diamond represents cocaine. Is this part of the challenge, then, of policing the app?
Yeah, absolutely. So these are essentially like pictograms.
Yeah.
It started a long time ago, like late 1980s, and it was usually something very simple like a little smiley face that would convey some sort of emotional augmenting of a direct message of some kind.
Yeah.
But they can mean anything. So if you think it's hard to keep up with your child's jargon, imagine throwing in pictures on top of that. So the meaning behind them is not always obvious. It can be a sort of subtle communication that happens. So I sort of think of it as the digital equivalent of winking at somebody in a crowded room. It's something that maybe nobody else sees, but the person receiving the message understands that it's a cue about something, and they can use that to communicate sort of under the radar.
And on the flip side of that, if you try to confront somebody on it, you can also say, that's not what I meant.
That's right.
How is Snapchat responding to these allegations?
So they're always talking about how they try and do the best things that they can to sort of monitor content. So they talk about anything that creates severe harm is against their community guidelines. And so that includes everything from like terrorism to bullying to child trafficking, and then of course drug use is part of that as well. So they're supposedly using AI and some sort of filtering software to try and look for those patterns, and then if they can identify a profile that looks like a drug dealer, remove that individual from the network.
Most social media apps do have protective language that makes them a carrier of information, but not responsible for the actual information itself. What will parents have to prove in this lawsuit south of the border in order to get around that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So Snapchat has already said we shouldn't be charged with anything here because we fall under Section 230 of the CDA, which is that safe harbor clause that you're talking about. But this lawsuit is different in the sense that it's targeting the platform not because of the content posted by third parties, the people using the platform, but because of the design of the platform itself. It's this idea that the messages disappear immediately after seeing it. And the lawsuit is essentially making the case that it's the design of the platform itself that makes it so amenable for this particular type of illegal activity, and the platform owner should be responsible because of that.
Well, this is very similar then to the one against Fortnite, where parents said it was designed to be addictive and should not be advertised to children. We reached out to Snapchat for a statement. I'm going to read it and get your response. They had this to say to us: the sale of illicit drugs on Snapchat is prohibited. At Snap, we work diligently to stop drug dealers from abusing our platform. We deploy advanced technologies to proactively identify and shut dealers down, and we support law enforcement efforts to help bring them to justice. What's your response to that?
It's an appropriate sort of response to make because of these allegations. I don't think that Snapchat wants this sort of activity transpiring on the network. It makes the network sort of like a risky environment. And it makes it so that advertisers don't want to be there. But I don't know how much they can do because this is not like Facebook where there's a nice long archive of messages that parents can see. I just think it's kind of a whack-a-mole scenario. You can find someone and then remove them from the network, and then they could turn around and create another account. So it's just going to be tricky for them.
Yeah, if they're looking for drugs, they can find them.
Yep.
Brett Caraway, it's great to have you here today. Thank you for coming in. If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.